Hello and welcome to Morning Trade with Money Control. I'm Karunya Rao and I'm here to help you navigate the trading day with actionable strategies, sectoral trends, and most importantly, solving your questions, your queries and concerns with respect to your investments. So please keep commenting on our live feed and we'll have your questions addressed by our technical expert in the latter half of the show. But before we kickstart, let's see what the global handover looks like. Wall Street ended mixed amid caution ahead of Fed minutes and inflation data. Asia markets trend lower post IMF's gloomy forecast. The SGX Nifty hints at a muted start for the Indian markets. Europe markets, meanwhile, closed lower as concerns persisted over global growth outlook and the prospect of more monetary policy tightening from central banks. Stoxx 600 was down 0.5%, recovering somewhat from the steeper losses earlier. All major bourses and majority of the sectors in Europe ended in the red. Stocks in the spotlight today are IndusInd Bank, Suzlon Energy, l&tfinance and deltacorp. We do a deep dive into the paint sector on the show today. Is the industry poised to gain from the upcoming festive season? We'll explore that later on the show. Okay, let's get going and discuss some stocks that are likely to be in the spotlight today with Shivangi Sarda from Motilal Oswal. Morning, Shivangi. Thanks for joining in. Cues are looking fairly mixed. Tell us what could be the scenario for Indian markets today.
Good morning, Karunya. It's a pleasure to be here in the morning today. So we've seen, the Nifty index was quite in a weakness in the last half of the trading session yesterday. And we've seen that, it broke its crucial support zones. So somewhere there is negative setup involved in Nifty. And on the other hand, if we talk about Bank Nifty, I'm just drawing a relative comparison over here. Bank Nifty was resilient. It did not break as compared to Nifty. So there is some sort of a mix setup over here in the market because Nifty is reacting in the negative zone and Bank Nifty is still holding on to its crucial support of 38,500 from the last two sessions. So Nifty will be, in the weakness. So we have, 16,888 as the immediate level of the downside to look at. And on the upside, we have 17,250 as the resistance which will act up. And one could trade with, taking in mind these levels. Talking about Bank Nifty, the support right now is 38,000 and upside hurdle is at 39,250. Even India VIX, which is the volatility index, is quite high. It is near 20 zones, which is giving some discomfort to the bulls in the entire market. So we have to be very cautious and in these scenario, it is better to keep the trades less in number so that one could possibly do not lose much.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about some individual names as well then, which could be in the limelight. The first name I want to flag off is IndusInd Bank. Interesting bulk deal, report that we got last evening. Goldman Sachs has picked up close to 1% stake in the bank, 0.9% to be exact. The shares were bought at a price point of 1,167.5 rupees. Total number of shares bought close to 69.7 lakh. Route 1 Fund, meanwhile, sold 1.2 crore shares of IndusInd Bank, again at 1168 rupees levels. Talk to us about IndusInd Bank. Next week are the numbers as well. So, in the near term, how is the chart looking and what kind of an action should we expect?
So looking at IndusInd Bank, immediately we've seen that yesterday's formation was sort of a bearish engulfing candle formation. And we've seen a lot of short positions with good volume. So there is short built up over here. So immediately, if you talk about it, it would be in weakness. And we've, the important crucial support is 1150. So, if this level breaches, then we could see more downside of around 1125. But if it holds on to these levels, we could see a little bit of a recovery and upside. But the upside is too capped. I feel 1185 would be a level which would be to look out for in the upside.
Okay, all right. Moving on to the second stock on our radar, which is Suzlon Energy. They've bagged an order for development of close to 145 megawatt wind power project for the Aditya Birla Group. Now, this particular project is expected to be commissioned in 2023. Talk to us about Suzlon Energy and its chart. What do you think lies ahead?
So Suzlon Energy, the chart structure has become weak, and we've seen that weekly it has been forming lower highs from the last 5 to 6 weeks. So somewhere there is some sort of a weakness over here, and we could see more consolidation over here till the level of 675, and then maybe a upside from there. So this is a crucial support to watch out for.
Okay. The third stock on our list today is L&T Finance. They've got SEBI's approval for 100% stake sale in L&T Investment Management, and they will be hiving off this stake to HSBC. Let's talk about L&T Finance. It's seen a bit of a rough ride, in the last few weeks. What does the trend and the chart tell you for the next couple of weeks?
Okay, so looking at this chart, of course, there has been some sort of an action over here, but somewhere there has been a little negative sentiment over here as well. So it would see a little bit of a more downside over here. And, till the market does not recover, the stock would not pick up in momentum.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the final name on the list, which is Delta Corp. They've reported their numbers for the quarter gone by, clocking in a 20% QOQ growth in bottom line at 68 crores. Revenue in Q2 also increased by 8% QOQ, coming in at 270 crore rupees. Let's talk about Delta Corp. Typically, it does see a lot of action right after its numbers. Will that happen today as well? And which way should it head, according to you?
So looking at Delta Corp, the weekly chart structure is quite resilient. It is positive, but the daily chart structure has turned little negative. So we could see that overall the stock is good, but with short-term pain. So Delta Corp, looking at the candle yesterday, it turned quite a lot of, bears into action in this stock. But 210 would be an important support zone to look at for. And upside, the hurdles are forming at 236.
Okay, all right. Shivangi, request you to stay on with us. I want to touch base with Kaustubh Pavaskar as well from Sharekhan, and he's here to talk to us about a particular sector that he tracks very closely, which is the paint space. Kaustubh, good morning, and thank you for joining us on Morning Trade. Yesterday, of course, we saw, a lot of momentum in paint stocks. Of course, by the time the markets ended, they also gave up a significant amount of that gains. But let's talk about the outlook for the sector, because now we're in the second half of the quarter. Q3, Q4 typically see a lot of demand as well, given that it's festive season, wedding time, etc. How's the sector looking given commodity volatility, commodity price inflation and volatility associated with it, and overall demand scenario?
Good morning, Karunya. Thanks for bringing me on your show, and it's a pleasure to be on your show. First of all, I just want to talk about the overall sector, like what we have seen in past few years. So demand for the decorative paint has been quite strong. So barring the pandemic period, we have seen that the resurgence in demand was quite strong for the paint sector, and we have seen that. And urban demand is also, despite the fact that there was overall inflation, the demand in the urban market was quite resilient. So what we believe is that, next 2 quarters, we should see, volume growth momentum to continue in the paint segment, especially in the decorative segment. We have seen good demand coming in from not only, the repainting demand, but also the project real estate demand is also there. Also, we have seen that even auto cycle has revamped, so there also the demand is there. So overall, we believe that for the paint sector, it is going to be a good demand, which will continue over the next 2 quarters. What we are getting a sense from the dealer is that they are stocking up because prior to the festive season, and they have stocked up well, and they are seeing a demand as well in the both the urban and the tier 1, tier 2 towns. The only part which seen some kind of slowdown is at the lower end of lower price point product in this segment, where because of the inflation there is some kind of a down trading on or buying which has not happened. But now with commodity prices coming down, crude prices coming down, we expect paint companies to pass on the benefit to the consumer, and that will help even demand to pick up at the lower end of the segment. But overall, we believe that demand is quite good, and it should continue. Festive season should be good for the segment.
Okay. So, in terms of downside risks, let's say somebody wants to look at buying into any of these paint companies at the current juncture, what should be some downside risks or any concerns also that they should monitor closely? Of course, oil price definitely will be something, but apart from that, what will be the big monitorables for investors?
See, big monitorable for the investor is obviously the new players coming into the market. So we have seen some of the large players which are planning to enter into the market, and they are looking for big investments which they are planning to do over the next 4 to 5 years in terms of adding up of the capacities. So obviously there would be competitive pressure, and in that context, how the pricing environment would be, because we have seen that Asian Paint is the market leader, and
Okay, I think we've snapped the line with Kaustubh. We'll try to reconnect with him. Meanwhile, let's understand what kind of queries are coming in, and let's touch base once again with Shivangi Sarda. Shivangi, a lot of comments on cement sector, so let's get started with that. Javed is asking about the cement sector. I saw some queries on India Cement coming in as well from one of our viewers. Then there is Ambuja as well. So talk to us about the cement pack and any of these names that stand out right now, because it has overall been under a bit of a pressure.
Exactly. So cement sector was one such sector which was resilient, and it was moving against the market, which means that it was showing strength despite the market volatility. But recently we've seen, some profit booking decline at higher zones. Even Ambuja Cement, we've seen that, it did rally, quite a lot. And after a correction, it again retested its a support zone of around 470 zones. So overall, if we talk about Ambuja Cement, the stock structure is still quite positive, and we could use any declines for buying opportunity. But if we look at India Cement, there has been lack of buying interest over here in this stock, and one could avoid this stock, or if one has already bought it, then we could possibly look for an exit over here, because this stock has gone into quite a lot of weakness with a support of around 225 zones.
Okay. And any of the paint stocks that look interesting? I was just talking to the fundamental analyst as well, wherein he said the demand looks intact, but any of these charts which look solid as well?
Yes, exactly. So talking about paints, we cannot rule out Asian Paints. In fact, with the dollar price movements and the crude oil price movements, this company has been quite positively affected by those price actions. And Asian Paint, we've seen, even yesterday, even after the massive weakness in the market, this stock was resilient. So this stock is one such stock which, if we look at seasonality wise, it has always performed in the third quarter in the last decade. So this stock is quite positive, and coming 3 months it is supposed to be quite positive. Immediately we could look for a target of around 3420 zones, and with a stop loss of around 3240.
Okay, Kaustubh is still with us. Let's go across to him. Kaustubh, in terms of volume growth, is there any projection for the quarter gone by and even for the coming, second half? What kind of volume pickup should we expect for the sector, or any names that you want to flag off?
Yeah, so Q2 is normally a seasonally a weak quarter for the paint companies, but on YY basis we should expect a double-digit kind of a volume growth for the paint companies, because demand was quite resilient. We should expect good pickup in volumes in the quarter 3, because festive demand is there. So and also, as you said, that marriages, pent-up demand is quite there. projects, real estate sector is doing well. So this is some segment which is doing exceptionally well for the parent companies, and they are seeing a good growth and demand from this particular sector. And as I said, even auto resurgence is there. So that should help volume growth momentum to improve in the quarters ahead. And as I said, with we anticipate companies to pass on the benefit of correction in the commodity prices, okay, because in the first half there was a price increase of around 21%, and we believe that over the period of time there should be some moderation in the prices, especially at the lower end of the portfolio. So there we should see some kind of resurgence once the pricing action happens. So overall, we should expect the volume growth momentum to sustain in the coming quarters. In fact, it should improve at the lower end of the portfolio in the quarters, and when price correction happens in the market.
Okay. What about margins trajectory? Because yes, in Q2 we are expected to see some benefit of the low base, some benefit from pricing action. But for the rest of the year as well, what kind of a margin trajectory should one work with?
So we should expect margins to improve from quarter 3 of FY 2023 if crude prices continues to remain lower. Because the prices had gone up to around 120 levels, now they are down at around 94 levels. So obviously those benefits would be there. Q2 we are expecting benefit because of the low base, but sequentially I think margins should remain at the levels what they were. But obviously from quarter 3 we should start anticipating margins to improve because the benefit of lower commodity prices would start playing in from Q3. Also, it depends on what pricing actions company takes in the coming months, because we should anticipate some kind of price moderation in terms of product to happen, because that will help them to see the volume growth to improve, especially in the rural market where the demand is quite weak. So obviously that is going to happen in the quarters ahead.
Okay, Kaustubh, thank you so much for flagging it all for us and our viewers, and it was great having you on board. Back to Shivangi Sada once again for our viewer queries. Shivangi, the next stock on our list is SBI Cards. We have a comment coming in from Elan. They've bought SBI Card for 910 rupees. Right now, the stock is well below that. In fact, it's hovering around 870 levels. So the viewer is asking if they should sell or should average at these levels. Last 2 weeks have been very sluggish for this one. What do you suggest they do?
Of course, the stock has been quite a lot of in weakness in the last 2 weeks, but it is near its very crucial important support zones, which it retested around 3 to 4 times, which is around 868 zone. So we could actually wait at this level, and if it breaks this level, it could see more of a downside over here. But if it holds on to these levels, we could see a little more of a upside over here. But of course, the upside will be capped for the time being. Around to 905, then 918 levels.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the next question. This is from Ashok. He wants your view on two blue chip companies. One is L&T and the other RIL, but both of them for the short term. What is your verdict?
So looking at L&T, the stock has, retested 1800 zones, and it again gave a good set of rally from there. But again, yesterday, most of the stocks have seen quite a lot of sell-off, including this stock. So, once the market recovers a little bit, we could see some sort of, recovery over here, because relatively the stock is strong. So on the downside, immediately we could look at, 1840 levels as the support, and upside 1960.
Okay. All right. Next stock on the list is Varun Beverages. Rohit Ghai wants your view here, and this one has seen quite a wild swing last few weeks. While we at Money Control Pro seem to be recommending the stock for the long haul, how is it looking in the near to medium term? Will this wild ride continue?
So, looking at the long-term structure, of course, the stock is very positive. It is holding on to its 50 weekly exponential moving average, which is quite positive. So, of course, long-term, it looks promising. But immediately, if we look at, the stock, it could, take a support near 1018 zones. So, one could watch out for these levels. And the upside, immediately, we could look at for 1150.
Okay, all right. Vignesh is asking us your view on oil marketing companies, BPCL, HPCL, even gas company like ONGC, because there's been a lot of volatility in crude, there's recession fears, etc. But of course, we're here to talk about the technicals. Talk to us about these OMCs and if it's a good idea to sort of try and buy or trade in them, or should one stay away?
So, talking about oil and gas companies, I have my first call, of the day on BPCL. So it was sell, BPCL for, around a target of around 288 and a stop loss near that. Around 306 zones. So, we've seen quite a lot of weakness in this stock, and the way it is reacting with the global markets, the entire structure looks quite negative for the time being. And we could see more downside over here. So, one could sell with those levels.
Okay, all right. The next query is from Sanjay Chaudhary. In fact, several others whose names, I've just missed out on the feed. They're all asking about Vedanta. So a lot of demand coming in. Talk to us about the way forward, how the technicals are placed.
Looking at Vedanta, yesterday we saw that, profit booking declined from higher zones. It crossed 305 zones, which was quite positive. But, after the sell-off yesterday, there is supported to be some sort of a consolidation over here. So overall, the structure is quite strong for the stock. So we could actually wait for a, upside move. I am looking at a target of around, 296 to 300 zones from here. But after a little bit of a consolidation, given the market weakness and downside, we could look for a stop at 281.
Okay, all right. Then there is Eicher Motors as well, some comments coming in there. What is your view on Eicher Motors? How's it placed?
Yes, Eicher Motor, it is, again, yesterday we saw like short side volumes over here. But, the weekly, if we see, it has seen profit booking decline from the last week onwards. So somewhere the structure has weakened out, and immediately we could, see more of a downside over here. And auto space, of course, if we talk about, there has been some sort of profit booking decline at higher zones. So looking at this chart structure, we could see a downside of 3290 zones over here with a stop of 3470.
Okay, all right. Shivangi, we know for a fact that you're recommending a sell on BPCL, but any stock that you would also recommend a buy for our viewers?
Yes, so I have one stock on the buy radar, which includes IDFC First Bank. So we've seen, even despite the market weakness, this stock is, relatively outperforming. Even Bank Nifty, as a sector as a whole, it is quite resilient. So, recommending a buy on this stock, which has been making high lows for many weeks, and with a target of around 55 and a stop loss of 52. Apart from this, we could also look at some consumption names, which includes Asian Paint.
Okay, all right. I've been getting several questions on Adani Ports in our comment section. If you could address that. In fact, one of our viewers is also, as we speak, typing, saying that Mazgaon and Cochin Shipyard also, if you could share your view. So some of these freight and port related stocks looks like there's a lot of interest there. So if you could address them.
Yes. So looking at, Adani Ports, the stock has gone quite a lot of in weakness from the last 4 weeks. So this entire month, if we say, has been quite negative for the stock from the second half of September. But again, the previous support, if we look at, is around 773 zones. So, we could expect a little downside move till those levels, and for upside hurdle of around 810.
Okay. Couple of more queries real quick. I saw a lot of comments coming in on Biocon and they continue to trickle in. So how's Biocon looking on the chart?
So, first of all, if we look at any pharma stock, it, reacts very much with the market. So, with the market in weakness, Biocon is one stock which will also, react negatively with the market. But, we could see a more downside over here of around 258 zones. And the stock we've seen, it has been in weakness from the month of April. So, consistently, there has been, downside trending, so we could look for a more downside over here with a upside hurdle of around 270.
Okay. You were talking about consumption, so let's address Marico as well. Saurabh is writing to us and he's asking if Marico will again trade weak today. It seems to have been on his radar and us. So tell us, how's Marico looking on the technicals?
So Marico, very important support of 505, and we've seen that yesterday, even after crossing this level, it gave a closing above this level. So which is kind of a point to be noted over here. So this could be a reversal point from here, but if the entire market does not react well, it could see more downside of around 499 levels.
Okay. Dabur as well, if you could, quickly address. We just getting some comments on Dabur. How's Dabur vis-a-vis Marico?
As compared to, Marico, Dabur is much weaker, and, we've seen good volumes in the short side from the last 2 weeks, which makes the stock even more in weakness. So even if the market recovers, this stock is not bound to recover that much. So this will trade in a little bit of a weakness over here, and we could see, more downside of around 500 zones over here.
Okay, all right. Yesterday, of course, we saw IT sector take quite a beating despite TCS delivering a decent set of numbers. Today on the radar will be Hcl Technologies, Wipro, especially after the reaction yesterday. People are wondering how they should position themselves ahead of numbers today from both of these IT giants. So if you could give us a comparison of Hcl and Wipro.
So, if we look at Hcl Tech and Wipro, both of them are quite a lot of in weakness. But if we look at the IT pack, as a total, there have been quite a lot of whipsaws because as soon as this stock the entire sector is trying to recover, there is pressure in the upside, So, one such stock over here, I would, recommend to look out for will be Coforge, because this is one stock which has been resilient. Despite the market whipsaw. So we could look out for this stock.
Okay. How about Tata Power? Subir is writing to us. If you could share your view and help him out.
Looking at all the power stocks, they are actually giving up their gains at the higher zones, even if you look at Havells or any other stock. So there is some sort of a, weakness over here. So we could actually wait for these stocks to recover and then initiate a buy over here, because these stocks are not, these have already fallen a lot from their higher zone. So there is not much of a downside move over here possible, but we could watch out and wait for a reversal.
All right. Well, Shivangi, thank you so much for addressing so many queries, questions and concerns that our viewers had. Thank you so much for joining in. Always great to get in your perspective. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up right here on Morning Trade. Stay tuned because Santo and CJ is coming up right after.